And we're live. What's happening, everybody? I hope everybody had a great Christmas today. And it's Wednesday night, and it's time to do what is it do we do on Wednesday night? Tech Talk. Tech Talk Live. And we got 33 people in here already? How'd that happen? Let me roll back up here. Danny Boyd, what's happening? Frog Feeder, Charlton Zimmerman, Rocco, Jason's Automotive, what's happening, brother? 182QF2. Okay, I've never heard that. Welcome, 18QTQ. I can't do that. You're going to give me a stroke, brother. I'm an old man. I can't be trying to decipher your name. Travis Moore, Mexican Spec. What's happening, brother? Oh, God. Okay, so who else? BS Customs. What's happening? Rocco. How you doing, Rocco? Bob Manzalilo. What's happening, brother? Travis Moore, Dale Fountain. Okay, so what's going on, guys? We took this holiday off. It was like after years of chaos, it was just like, you know what? Just quiet, just quiet holiday. But I hope you guys had as hectic and active as one as you chose to have. And for those who didn't, welcome. Chris Cowles, Mary Mopar. That's nice. Frank F. Dedication. I'm very dedicated. Man's got to do what a man's got to do. So Dr. Art he's taking tonight off, very understandably. So he'll be back next Wednesday. And let's see what we got here now. Scoop, my garage door spring broke for Christmas. Well, you got something for Christmas then, right? Those things are a nightmare. There's a big deal when a garage door spring breaks. Bob Manzullo, love all your videos. What's up with Scribbles? Scribbles is just parked right now. I kind of lost my way with it. Like, in other words, I got it to where we got it running and functional and doing all of that. And I ran it to and from. I use it as a daily for like a week or two. And then I just parked it, and it's literally just been parked, like nothing happening with it yet. I need some direction with it. I need to do something with it. I'll get inspired at some point by something and dive into it. Today I moved some vehicles around because I've got that. I want to build a Woods toy. We talked about that months ago, and I picked up that 5th XJ. So I moved that into a position there where I can start working on it. So in the spring we can go do the Tennessee Dirt Devil, among all of these other things that are going on. Anthony Bizzina, we've got a lot of Italians in here tonight. Have you used Rhodes lifters? Are they any good? I myself have never used them. They've been around forever. First time I encountered them was it was in the 70s. It was definitely in the 70s. I myself have never used them, but they do work, right? And the concept of the Rhodes lifter is the Rhodes lifter deliberately collapses. Okay, so basically it's built with enough clearance so that at low RPM and low oil pressure, it collapses. And so what it does is it bleeds off some of the effects of a bigger camshaft. Okay, now as the RPM comes up and oil pressure comes up, they pump up, get stiff, and then you get full use of the cam. So that's how they work on paper. They're oil pressure sensitive. I've never heard bad things about them. Like I said, I've never used them myself. I've heard about them forever, but I'm not the guy to ask for any like actual experience with the things. Let's see. Danny Boyd is saying they say a garage door spring can kill you, but they don't look that dangerous when I've seen on YouTube. It's not the spring, man. It's the door. Have you ever had a garage door come? Have you ever seen a spring break while the garage door is all the way up? And the way they hit the ground like that? An old school garage door, like a wooden garage door, will flat out kill you. Michael D is saying, evening, it's not the spring that kills you, but mostly the steel winding bar that you let slip that bangs you in the head. Yeah, that'll get you too. Lots of things can get you in terms of a garage door spring. Jerry Schallenbarger, what happened to the guys from Bennett's Rod Shop? Jim died about 2 years ago. He had a stroke. And then everything that happened after that is kind of weird. Hang on, let me do something with this light. I'll be right back. Okay, maybe that's a little better. No, it's not. Okay, it doesn't matter. You guys got to deal with the reflections. So at any rate, yes, Jim passed away, and then there was weirdness and chaos that followed, having to do with customers' cars and parts that were there and deposits that were made, and there was just so much weirdness involved in all of that. I stepped away. I just didn't want to hear about it, know about it, get involved in it, or deal with it. So Jim was a good guy. He was a good guy. He was a fun guy. But anyway, Mexican Spec, did I see TK's garage video? Yes, I did. I saw it. Yes. I watch a lot of his videos. He's a good guy. I like his content. Let's see. Eric Wilson, yes. Merry Christmas, yes. Merry Christmas. I think today's the first day of Hanukkah too. For our Jewish friends, or the second day of Hanukkah, that's Hanukkah too. Uncle Tony, have you used Mancini Mopar parts? I've bought parts from everybody at one point or another in my life. Let's see. Reaper, do you know what A-body hood will fit a 74 Duster? A-body hood will say only 73 through 76 Duster. Those are your only choices with that one. Scott Glaster, why are fuel system return lines smaller than the feed lines? Well, because getting there is the important thing, and then returning it is less important. You obviously want more pressure and volume feeding the thing you're trying to feed than returning. Yeah, I had to. Yeah, Mexican Spec. I had to do that video, man. I had to do that video. It was terrible. But I tell you what. Either tomorrow or the next day, I'm going to do a ranking of Dodge Chargers, 66 to the current one, and just my opinion on each of the incarnations of the Charger. Yes, Travis Moore saying it's Hanukkah also. Yes, so happy Hanukkah, my friends. Jimmy, what happened to Paige and her Duster? Oh God, I mean, she didn't buy that Duster. She ended up buying, I guess a long time ago. She ended up buying a Nova, and then they moved away. That was literally years ago. Kim fixes things. Kim, what's happening? Merry Mopar. Yes, Merry Mopar to you, Kim. Dean Stevenson, what's happening, brother? Max Switch, Dick Dastardly is going out to the garage soon. Excellent. Let's see. Scroll back here. Frog Feeder, what's the demand like for 1970 strapline truck power steering system? So somebody out there's got to want it. Geez, I don't know. I don't know. That'll fit from like I think it's like 72 back. Um, Geez, I don't even know the interchange on that. I don't know if you're trying to sell one. I don't know. Can't really give you any answers on that. Um, Nick D'Angelo, Merry Christmas, Nick. What about a turbo build? How do you like Jamie's turbo slant on Dead Dodge Garage? I was actually supposed to send Jamie something, and I got sidetracked this week. So, Jamie, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. I will get it. I will get it in motion tomorrow. Um, Speaking of the dead, Jim Bennett had a Dodge Dart, a Turbo Slant 6 Dodge Dart, and I was supposed to screw around with that. It turned out the engine was wiped out, and he was in the process of redoing the motor to put it back together again and send it to me, and we were going to play with the turbo. And he passed away before we could do anything with that. And then I started building a Turbo Slant 6. Well, with a guy, a guy I knew from years ago who popped into my world just out of the blue with a Valiant and a turbocharger and a Slant 6. And then he drifted back out again. He had some chemically induced issues. So he checked out, disappeared, dumped this whole thing on my lap, and I ended up passing that along to Kim. And Kim fixes things and Buff Del Campo. And so they have a Slant 6 Valiant turbo build that they're doing. Now, if at some point they want me to help them get my hands in it, I would be more than happy to. I'd love to play around with it. But I have no intention of building one for myself. My preferred power adder is nitrous oxide. Chris Brinoy, happy Festivus for the rest of us. So that's the situation with turbochargers. I would love to play with one, but I don't want to build one. And Kim is saying they actually have two DOS Slant 6s that could be turbocharged in 2025. So there you go. Lots of interesting turbo stuff. If you're into that sort of thing. And I have nothing against turbochargers. I think they're great. But like I said, everybody has a preferred thing, the thing that they like. And for me, nitrous oxide just seems to work. It fits the bill. Let's see. Rocco is saying I should clone Cody's motor for Scribbles. Cody? Who's? Oh God. Am I having a stroke? Who's Cody? I don't. Z Days, Tony, you have any Max Wedge heads you like to sell? No, I have nothing of that sort. I've gotten rid of so much. I haven't had Max Wedge heads in years and years and years. But I have very, very little left in the way of like, Whistle and Diesel, Cody, that Cody. I'll get back to that in a second. But yeah, I just don't have that much in the way of parts. I've been getting rid of things actively. I'm trying to lighten the load. I'm trying to go into my waning years with as little like clutter and left, unfinished things as I can. Let's see. Kim, yes, Kim. I'd love to send Buff Del Campo down there to be a guest on your live stream if you have room for a co-host on it. Yeah, of course. Buff and I used to do a live from a gas station. We used to do our Sunday night lives. He used to come down every Sunday night, and we did it at a gas station right off of I-24. We did that for the whole like spring and summer one year. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that. But of course, Buff is always welcome. Just let me know when he can make it. And we'll definitely do that. Jimmy Luce, thank you for the super chat. Can I sand the terminals inside the distributor cap to get new life out of it and save some bucks on my new? Yes, you can. That's age old. We used to do that years and years ago. But try not to scratch up the plastic. All right, like when you clean up the terminals on a distributor cap, be careful that you don't scratch up the plastic, because the plastic is where carbon will gather, and the carbon will cause it to arc. So yeah, you could do that. That's no problem. You do the same thing with the distributor cap, with the rotor, the tip of the rotor. Just give it a little scrapage on some emery cloth. Yeah, no problem. Let's see. Travis Moore, why did Stirling engine hybrid cars never catch on? I was hoping for better mile per gallon. The Stirling doesn't make any torque. The Stirling is the same issue like with a rotary. They make no torque. So they just don't. Bob Manzolillo, love your honesty on the new Charger. Yes, we are a tribe. We are a tribe. That's the thing, right? People don't see it that way, but it's true. And that's like, you get your Pontiac guys, you get your Chevy guys, you get your Ford guys, you get your Mopar guys, and we're lumped together as like part of a tribe. So when one of these new Chargers with the Fratsonic exhaust and all the other shit goes out into the world carrying the Dodge nameplate, it appears that we collectively endorse it. You know what I mean? And that's like the exact opposite. And that's why I have such an adamant stand against these cars. Be vocal about it, right? I mean, be really vocal about it, because they're using names that we have associated with. And it's not loyalty to a corporation or loyalty to a company or loyalty to anything like that. It's loyalty to it's not even a nameplate. How can I phrase this? How can I put this? It's not loyalty to a corporation. It's loyalty to a type of car or a type of I would say mentality. Oh God, maybe one of you guys can help me out with this. All right, because for me, it's the mechanical design language of classic era Mopars. And some of it bled off into like the K-car era, the K-car period, where even though they were completely different than the traditional, 1960 through 1980 cars, rear-wheel drive cars, they still had the design, basically the design language. Like you knew, you're working on a Dodge Omni, it felt like a Dodge. You know what I mean? It was engineered like a Dodge. There was that relationship. There was a family relationship, and all of that's completely gone. But the point is, people will automatically associate us, traditional Mopar people, or Mopar people who aren't idiots, okay, with this electric thing, which is an abomination. The electric Charger isn't just offensive to Mopar people; it's offensive to car people. Just car people in general. You don't have to be a Mopar person. You can be into any type of car person, even an EV person. Like, it's offensive to EV people, okay? Because if I was an EV guy, I've got my Tesla, I've got I'm into the whole electric car thing. And here comes this poser. It's an electric car that goes out of its way to look and sound like a gasoline car. What kind of shit is that? You see what I'm saying? It's a vehicle that is offensive to everybody except the clowns that conceived it and pushed it through. All right. Kyle Darling, Merry Christmas, Kyle. Tony, you're an absolute inspiration to young guys like myself. Keep on keeping on. Well, thank you, brother. I try to be. Territory, thanks for forwarding me to Rich Rebuild channel. What a great channel. I love that guy. I don't really get to watch enough of his content. He does great stuff. Every one of his videos is like a real treat. You love the analogy. The new EV Charger is like a silent rave with engine sounds inside the kit. Yeah, Rich Rebuilds quality video every time. And the thing I like about him the most is the way he actually integrates. So I'm very much against doing spoken ads within videos. I feel that the viewer has already paid for watching, already paid for the privilege of viewing a video by having to sit through the commercials that are in the beginning of it, and that YouTube inserts through it all, right? So I'm very, very against spoken ads, right? Inside videos. But Rich always makes it extremely entertaining, right? So like he's the exception to the rule. I look forward to the ads that he does. You should see, oh, Mexican Spec. You should see the Joe Rogan episode when Rich was on there. Oh, I didn't even know he was on there. I don't really get to watch a lot of Joe Rogan. I mean, not that I have anything against him. I like the guy a lot, but I just don't watch much of his stuff. Let's see. High Rev Nation. Any exhaust recommendations for an 871 blown 440 on my Charger? I know many jump to Flowmasters, but there's got to be something a little less restrictive that still sounds good. Flowmasters has the lock on true muffler tech, right? On high flow, high performance. Well, no, what is it? Borla? I think Borla also. There's a, you know, I can't give you any direct options. I don't know enough about that kind of super high flow muffler. When we get to that point with exhaust systems, I just leave them off. You know what I mean? But if you're going to drive it on the street, you need to be in traffic and all that. You do need some kind of muffler. I don't really have a good recommendation for you. But for a less extreme application, you know, because you're talking about force feeding a 440, that's going to make a lot of noise. But for a less extreme, like a normally aspirated application, Flowmasters are really the go-to because they work. They work. My coffee is getting tepid. Granny's Blue Waffle is going to put Flowmasters on my wheelchair. Let's see. Thomas Ball, Merry Christmas, Thomas. Jay Valentino, any suggestions for cleaning a 70s Ford gas tank? Hasn't run since 97. California truck, still has gas in it. Oh, geez. There's just a black tar stuff is in it. One is plastic and the other is metal. I'll tell you right now, that metal tank, I wouldn't bother, bro. I wouldn't bother. I just literally went through this with one of my XJs. Well, Mission Improbable, actually. I tried everything to clean that tank, and no matter what I did, it still shed rust. It's just not worth it. If it's a metal tank, replace the tank. If it's a plastic tank, yeah, you can clean it. You'll be able to clean it, and it won't shed. But the problem with the metal tanks is that once the protective coating is off, once the rust starts, nothing stops it. Then there's always water, there's always condensation in the gas tank. So it's always getting, the rust is always getting worse, and you'll find that you're going to be repeatedly having to pull it apart and change the sock, because the sock will get clogged with this fine powder. If it's an impossible to replace tank, you could, they make tank sealers like for motorcycles. There's a product called Cream that I've used. And that works. That works. I'm sure there are other products also. I'm just telling you the one that I know of. So if it's an impossible to replace fuel tank and it's got rust, try something like Cream, a coating. But if you have any, if you can get a replacement tank and it's not going to like break your bank or anything like that, you're definitely better off just replacing the tank and be done with it. Let's see, Vintage Adventurer Drives. I just picked up a 400 big block 74 Valiant drag car project. I'd like to cut out the inner fender to the greatest extent possible. How much can I cut out before running into problems? Okay. Depends on the use of the car, okay? Depends on the use of the car. So for a drag car, and only for a drag car, you can cut the vast majority of the inner fender out. You have to leave if you're gonna run front shocks, and unless you're going to fabricate mounts for the front shocks, you have to leave that section in. But you can cut away pretty much all of the inner structure because the weight of the car, the engine, the transmission, the suspension, and all of that is on the frame rails. The firewall and the bulkhead that the A-pillar is attached to is strong enough so that it'll keep the car together. Okay. Now, if you use it, let's say on the road, okay, where you're going to encounter a lot of bumps and dips and stuff like that, well, then you're going to have a problem because those inner fender wells help support the firewall and the bulkhead, the front bulkhead, and the A-pillars. So the car will start to want to do this, and that's not good. Now, also, you're going to run into a lot more twist. There's going to be, like, for a drag car, it's going to want to twist more than it will without. So if you're going to cut out the inner fender wells and you're going to make any type of real power and you're going to stick it in any type of meaningful way, right, meaning like with drag radials or slicks, then I would recommend cutting it out, but then reinforcing with a pair of bars that go from the core support, the base of the core support, where the radiator is, to the outer sections of the firewall up high. And that'll eliminate almost all of the twisting and any tendency the car is going to have to do this. Let's see. George Namack, Merry Christmas, George. Sobriety Belong. Tony, propane dual IMCO 425 mixers on a tunnel ram setup? Possibly. I don't think on a tunnel ram. Phase one, get it running with the setup that I have and learn the characteristics. It was all brand new to me, right? So learn the characteristics of propane. And then once we do that, we'll see where we're going to go with it. But yeah, I can definitely see a dual quad setup with two mixers. But not yet. First, we cut our teeth with the simple basics. Yeah, Scoop. Yeah, like we try to stay away. I know some of the stuff is hysterical. I get it. Okay, but we try to stay away from anything like that here. I know. But we have a pretty broad audience, so we don't want to. Let's just leave that out, and we'll talk cars and things related to cars. Old Jetfire, hey, what's happening, man? How are you? Love the drag racing stories. Should do a one-time month racing story. Here's the thing, man. To me, what has happened to drag racing, professional drag racing, in the last 30 years, beginning about that era, around 1985, 1990, is tragic. It's absolutely tragic. I know a lot of people don't see it that way, but I do. It was so different than it is today. It was so purely American. It was just everything about it was attainable. It was fun. It was amazing. It was all of the things you would want an activity to be. And what it's become, what it is today, to me, is just pure tragedy, pure freaking tragedy. And so I really don't like looking back at the old days. You know what I'm saying? I have a lot of great memories, a lot of years involved with it, and got a lot of great stories. But it's like I don't want to go back there because it's tragic. It's literally tragic. My coffee has gone from tepid to cold, and that is tragic all by itself. More cigarette. Okay. Blue collar worker. Merry Christmas, blue collar worker. Let's see. SC308, dumb question time. Is drag racing all just eighth mile now? Not all of it, but it will be. I will absolutely guarantee you. You look at just, let's say, 5 years down the road, maybe 10 years down the road, I do believe the whole quarter mile thing is going to be in memory. Eighth mile is just so much easier on the machinery. It's easier on the track owner. It's easier all the way around. There's less land constraints. Please. The eighth mile is absolutely going to completely eliminate at some point the quarter mile. If you look at it, all of the things that make news that people talk about, all of the cars that people talk about, all the series that people follow these days, all eighth mile, 100% eighth mile. Who knows what goes on at an NHRA event? I don't know. Nobody goes there to follow anything. Like people go to an NHRA event not to follow stuff, but just to see extremely loud, extremely fast cars. They don't know who wins or loses. They could care less. They're going for the spectacle of that. And that's getting smaller and smaller all the time. So in the meantime, the race series and the personalities and the types of cars that are making headlines that people are interested in are all eighth mile. So yes, the quarter mile has just a little bit of time to go. Now, I do think that the quarter mile will pretty much always stand as the measure for vehicle performance. All right. So don't confuse the sport with the standard of quarter mile performance, because that's always been, and for comparison's sake, going into the future, it always will be. So, SC3, that's disheartening to you. It should not be disheartening to you. I was the same way. When I was younger, I was like quarter mile or nothing. I could not conceive of how people can run eighth mile drag racing. I was like, that's ridiculous. Okay. Until I moved to an area here, I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, and everything around me is eighth mile. And it's the standard. It's eighth mile. And nobody even thinks in terms of quarter mile here. And then I started running cars on the eighth mile, and it's like, oh my God, this is so much better. There's no comparison. And I've said it 1,000 times, like on this channel, right? A quarter mile, everything is done by half track. By the 660, you're all done. You're in high gear. The cars, whatever suspension things the car has to do, it's already done. Whatever driving things you have to do, you've already done, right? It's all finished by that point, okay? And then from 660 to 1320, you just sit there and listen to your stuff get hurt. That's it. That's all that happens. There's no action from the. You see what I'm saying? So, eighth mile is just brewing down the drag race to its that's what I'm looking for. It's condensing it. It's purifying it and condensing it to its essence. The eighth mile is the essence of drag racing. Vintage Adventure here in Oklahoma. The two closest tracks to me are quarter mile tracks. The nearest eighth mile track is about 130 miles away from me. Yeah, in some parts of the country, there are still an active, like on the West Coast, it's still quarter mile or nothing. There's all about quarter mile. Although Irwindale, which they just recently closed, was eighth mile. Here in the Mid-South, it's always been eighth mile. It's always been eighth mile. Quarter mile tracks in the area. We have Bowling Green in Kentucky, which is 100 miles to the north of us, and there's Bristol to the east of us, 250 miles to the east of us. So here in Middle Tennessee, we have a bunch of tracks, bunch of outlaw tracks, and all 100% of them are eighth mile. Ventries, you were saying nitromethane, the Chevys were louder than Mopars because of the shorter connecting rod. Not because of the shorter connecting rod, but because of the shorter rod ratio, which is a byproduct of the shorter rod. And the shorter rod ratio causes the pistons to slow down quicker. It reaches a more abrupt stop at the bottom, and the pressure pulse that's happening. Nitromethane makes power because it's making power all the way down. It's even making power once the exhaust valve starts to open. It makes power all the way down, and because the shorter rod ratio, or because of the shorter rod on a Chevy, the piston comes to a more abrupt stop at the bottom, and that pressure pulse smacks the top of the piston, and that's what you're hearing. You're hearing that abrupt poof, right? That's why they sound sharper. Ford small blocks sound distinct for a couple of reasons. One is a very small exhaust port. So it's a very high velocity exhaust port. Look at like a 302 exhaust port versus like a typical small block Chevy. But also the firing order. Firing order is different. So that has a big part of it too. Tavo, what's happening, Tavo? Merry Christmas. Let's see. 6th Street Garage. Didn't expect a live tonight. We're always here, man. We're always here. The ducks are people too. They can be. They can be. We live in that age where anything can be anything it wants to. Don't argue with it. Let's see. Shovelheads forever. Merry Christmas, shovelheads. Let's see. Robert Bray, Tony doesn't get a day off. Dude, do you realize what I do for a living? I mean, seriously, do you realize what my job is? Why would anybody want a day off from this? I'm very lucky and very fortunate to be able to do this, and I never lose sight of that. I never lose sight of that. I wake up every morning knowing how lucky I am, and there's just no real work here. Tony B, Merry Christmas from St. Louis. Rocco identifies as a 509 cam, right? That's the holes. Merry Christmas, the holes. Technical question: will heavy valve springs twist the camshaft on a slant 6 such that cylinder 6 is now retarded? No. I mean, how heavy a valve spring are you talking about? Yeah. Okay. So an inline 6-cylinder cam, by virtue of the fact that it's longer, is going to be able to twist a little more. But no, the kind of valve springs, no, I wouldn't worry about it. You know, on paper, it may appear that yes, it's going to retard the back of the cam, but in that case, no. Now, for instance, okay, an example of blown fuel cams. Now, there's a place where cams do twist, they do bend, and periodically you have to check it, and you check it with number 6. You run number 1, right? So you do your basic degreeing at number 1. You make sure that that's set, and then you go 180 degrees right in rotation, and you do the same thing on number 6, and that tells you if there's any twist in the camshaft. And you do that every, I don't know, like every 20 runs or thereabouts, or at least it's back in the old days. I have no idea what they do today. So that's an example where the cam actually did used to bend, and there would be an effect. But on a slant 6, you're not going to have that problem, man. You're not going to have a problem. Let's see. Nathan Bring, hey, what's happening, man? Love you, brother, man. I'm the guy who randomly stopped by with his VW turbo diesel, right? Yeah, and your dog, right? I remember you. How's it going, man? Good to see you in live. Tim Page, UT gives his knowledge as a Christmas present. No, I give it away because nobody else in the world wants it except for you guys. So here, have it. Take all you want. Take all you want. Um, let's see. Vintage adventure drives. Whatever happened to the 170 from the Miata project? I gave that to somebody. I don't remember who I gave it to. When I was cleaning out the old shop, getting ready to move to this place, I gave away a bunch of engines and blocks and heads and all kinds of other stuff. And I had that engine on a stand, and I don't remember who I gave it to. But it's out there in the world someplace. Mark Ubel, Tony, heart-shaped heads. You mean heart-shaped combustion chambers? Small block. Can they make power? Yes, they can. So, but at lower RPM. So those, what you're talking about is like a high swirl head, like on a Magnum, for example. Um, yes, they can make more power at lower RPM. They start to become that heart-shaped chamber starts to become an issue at higher RPM with cams that feature a lot of overlap, because at that point it becomes a diversion, right? Like in a wedge head, during that period of overlap, both valves are open. The mixture is being sucked from the intake through the exhaust through the center of the chamber, and having that little heart-shaped area in there deflects some of that pulse that's scavenging, right? I say the exhaust is pulling the intake through, right? I don't know if I said it right the first time, but that little heart-shaped area becomes a problem at higher RPM with bigger camshafts. But for what it's intended for, okay, which is like mid-range RPM, idle up to let's say 5,000 or thereabouts with a small camshaft, they do what they're supposed to do. So take that for what it's worth. Let's see. The drones are out. Oh, Robert Bray, you seeing drones out? Let's see. Scoop knows that a 58 Fairlane rear end bolts up to a Ford Pinto, no mods needed. See, now, unfortunately, that's a trivia fact that's now going to plant itself in my head. Of course, I'm going to have to look that up after, and you know what? I'm thinking of the, yeah, I can kind of see where that would work. I'm going to double check that, and then that's going to be one of those factoids that's going to be stuck in my head. Rocco is so over the drones. Yeah, it's going to move to the next level. I think it's going to taper off for a while, and then it's going to move to the next level. It's not over yet. It's not over yet. The drone thing, the plasmoids are what's really interesting. Marky Bell, 110, 112, LSA about 520 lift. Haven't started the cam yet. Yeah, you're probably better off just cleaning up the chamber and taking out that little bit of. I'm assuming you're talking about a Magnum head, or the 302 LA head. I would the 302 LA head is probably the one you're talking about. I would probably clean that up. You just bring down that heart shaped part. Just blend that a little bit to make a more uniform quench area. Robert Bray is saying fireworks are happening in South Carolina. Robert Bray, tell me more about that. What's happening in South Carolina? UT, you ever paint the whole car with Rust-Oleum? The whole car, no, I have not. But I've seen a lot of really amazing Rust-Oleum paint jobs. Um, See the plane crash? Huh. All right, but yeah, I've seen. If you Google it, you check out, search on YouTube. There's a lot of videos of people doing Rust-Oleum paint jobs, and they have technique, just the right way to thin it, just the right brush to use, just the right technique, how to finish. I've seen some really astonishing Rust-Oleum paint jobs, and I would not hesitate. Actually, come to think of it, I have a vehicle that I may do that on. That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Okay, I got to think about this. Um, oh, the fireworks. Yeah, they all of the fireworks stands are up here now because that's a big thing for New Year's. People shoot off fireworks. Um, KJ Kylie, for Christmas, I got a 5-gallon bucket of JB Well. Excellent. Tim Page, UT, your 1966 Barracuda videos helped me, 65. Figure out why someone removed the choke parts of my 76 Charger 318, likely carbon up exhaust crossover. Yep. Jack, do I still have the wooden like pegs leg? No, I never saw it. I never saw it. I never used it to prop up. No, I've never used it for anything. Eric Wilson, you should see the Rust-Oleum paint job on my motorcycle. Glitter silver. Excellent. Robert Bray saying, try to supply paint works good. Yeah, implement paint. Just generic implement paint. Let's see. Chevy's 10V8, thank you for sharing your time with us on YouTube and the education. Brother, thank you for being here. Thank you for clicking on these videos and making this possible. As I say at the end of every one of these lives, I'm eternally grateful to you guys. I don't take this for granted. You know what I mean? I do not take this for granted. I know what kind of honor it is to be able to do this. Jacob Bowman, what's happening with Scribbles? Nothing. Somebody asked me that at the beginning of this live. Nothing at the moment. She's just sitting off on the side right now. I need to come up with a purpose. Okay, I need to come up with a purpose for Scribbles. But I don't want to do something that's like radical that would make it not like a happy regular daily driver. But that's the main thing. I just do not have a vision in my head yet for the purpose for that car. So I got it running, I got it functional, we drove it back and forth well, and then it's okay. Well, we reached a plateau with this, and we'll just push it off on the side, and then we'll pick up on it at some point in the future. Elmo, Tony, you ever watch Garage 54, the Russian channel? I watch it all the time. Garage 54 is amazing, absolutely amazing. Now, what I can't understand about Garage 54, these guys do the most absolutely over the top, elaborate stuff anywhere on YouTube. Like there isn't even a close second to match what Garage 54 does in terms of creativity and engineering and all of that. What I can't understand is how they pay for it, because it doesn't appear to be a working shop. It appears to be a YouTube-oriented shop. Their purpose, their crew, everything is to make videos, right? With the number of views that they get, I cannot fathom how they pay for all of this stuff. The crew, the parts, it has to be a fortune. I don't know how they pay for it. That's the one thing. I watch this. I watch them. I think they're awesome. I love their channel. I love the attitude. The whole thinking out of the box thing. It's right up my alley. But every time I watch them, I say to myself, how are they paying for this? Because my channel gets about the same number of views that theirs does. My channel eats pennies. Like all of the projects I do are dirt cheap. I don't spend money on these things, right? Those guys, 50 drill motors, 50 chains, 50, and I don't know how they pay for it because mathematically, you know what I mean? They're operating at a loss. So I gotta I don't know, but I do love Garage 54. Absolutely. Uh, let's see. Um, Nathan Brame, I think you should do a crossover with Dex, the Jeep Cherokee guy. You'll ever amazing chemistry. I've talked to Dex a few times. Dex, so I met his brother not too long ago. I met his brother out here by accident. We just ran into each other. Um, Dex is a great guy, but man, he's busy. He's very hard, very, very hard to get a hold of. And I do need to get a hold of him because I need to buy some stuff from him. But I'll end up going through his brother because Dex himself is, I guess he's hard to get a hold of. He's hard to nail down. He's very, he's high frequency, very, very high frequency. So, but yeah, I think he's awesome. I think his channel is awesome. I think everything he does is awesome. And I'm building. I've got a Jeep on the side that I just moved into position today, so we can start working on it. To go do what these guys do. It's like Dex was my inspiration for the build that we're going to do. Let's see. Josh Holman, have any of you heard of Conversations, Auto Connect, or Shift Gang? These are car channels out of Kenya, all very good. I've never heard of any of them. What kind of content do they do? Because I could be interested in that. I have been watching a lot of this CB Media. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this channel. If you're not, I suggest that you check it out. CB Media. So this guy is from Atlanta, okay, Georgia, and he lives in Thailand. And Thailand is the world capital of drag racing. They drag race everything, everywhere, all the time. And the machinery they have is next level, like stuff that we really can't even conceive of in this country, right? CB Media. So because of watching his channel, I've become very curious, and Garage 54 for that matter too. I've become very curious about drag racing or hot rodding culture around the world because there's a lot more to it than what we have here in this country. And it's funny, right? Because I remember when I was a kid, teenager, right? Young kid, teenager, and magazines like Hot Rod would do features on drag racing in like England. They would South Africa. They would do features on drag racing in different places around the world, and their stuff, anything that they showed was very what's the word I'm looking for? Quaint. You know what I mean? It was like very compared to what we had. Massive Hemis, blown nitro, right? They had these little four bangers and stuff like that, and these little like cobbled together like dragsters and stuff. And I always thought of it as like, oh, that's quaint, that's cute, that's silly. There's no interest in that. But man, no, it's the exact opposite today. Exact opposite today. They're doing stuff with hot rods and drag racing in other parts of the world that are just absolutely mind-blowing. They have these in Thailand, for example. They have these mini trucks. Okay, they're four-cylinder turbo diesels. Okay, you got to picture this now, right? A four-cylinder turbo diesel. and they run 7-second quarter miles with them, right? 4-cylinder turbo diesel. It's insane. And then they run these things called long boats too. Evidently, there's a lot of like very straight canals in Thailand. So they drag race these things called long boats. And they have these like 1,500 horsepower 4-cylinder turbo diesels in them. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. It's beautiful. You really got to see this stuff. Let's see. Tavo, your 4-cylinder turbo diesel wouldn't run about a 7-minute quarter. Tavo, CB Media, go there and look at some of these things. It is just amazing. Just amazing. John Rock, greetings from the island of Staten Island. Is that place still there? Do you remember Van Idestein and how can I forget Van Idestein and Helen Boulevard? Yes, for the longest time, Van Idestein was, so you had New York National, you had New York Speed on the other side of the island. And then you had Van Idestein on Highland Boulevard. Van Idestein was the place where I would have to go because to get across the island back then to New York Speed was a bitch. So Van Idestein was my go-to place for when I needed to buy a part real quick. And now Van Idestein is also where I met Neil Van Opry. He was working there before he opened his own speed shop, RPM on Staten Island. There's a lot of stuff. But yeah, I remember. Okay, I remember Van Idestein back from when they had the top fuel dragster. They had a slingshot dragster that they ran a front engine car up until like 73 or 74, like way after the rear engine cars had taken over. So yeah, I remember Van Idestein very, very well. Chris Cadman, Merry Christmas to you too, Chris. Let's see. Bob Bump. So it's great Thailand is running quarters. I just don't get eighth. Listen, what do you want me to tell you? Eventually, everybody's going to get eighth. Like I said, I was a quarter mile. Like I was a zealot with that, and now my opinion has gone completely the opposite way, the other way. I am an eighth mile believer. Chris, Tony, Merry Christmas. How to make a 2-barrel into a 4-barrel intake. There's not one available for this motor. Oh, that's the thing, right? A lot of people do that. They'll use an adapter to go from a 2-barrel base to a 4-barrel intake manifold. And your problem with that is you can physically mount the 4-barrel on there. There's no question it works. But there's so much, the reducer from the 4-barrel to the 2-barrel opening it's a place where fuel to fall out of suspension. So the fuel comes through the carburetor, it gets atomized, right? And then not vaporized, but atomized, and it comes through as a mist into the intake manifold. Now it's supposed to go right into the plenum where it hits some heat, and then some of it vaporizes and goes its own way. But now when you've got that 4-barrel top and you funnel it down to the 2-barrel, that atomized fuel that's come through the base of the carburetor hits that funnel and falls out of suspension. So you're going to have a good portion, a good amount of the fuel that's coming through there. Instead of going in as the fine atomized droplets, is going to go in as just wet drops of liquid. You see what I'm saying? It will never work correctly. You can get it to work, you can get it to function, you can get it to drive, but it will absolutely never work correctly. Your best bet is just build a 2-barrel carburetor, or get a 2-barrel carburetor that'll fit the application better. Use a 500 CFM Holley. A 500 CFM Holley is enough to feed a lot of engine. That's on a 2300 series base. So you may need an adapter to go from your but that's besides the point. use an appropriate high performance 2-barrel carburetor and call it a day. And you would be amazed at how much power you can get out of a 2-barrel carburetor. And I know those 500s, like the ones that are fully worked, I know that they're over 600 CFM that they flow. So you can blueprint one of those 500s and get an extra like 100 CFM out of them. But that's the way I would go. I would not recommend using an adapter. Okay, I got a couple of super chats here. Let me take care of this. Hello, I can't. Okay, Rocco, thank you, Rocco. Tony, does the 3.0 Hurricane stand a chance as an NA engine? No, I do not believe so. It's designed from the get-go as a turbocharged thing, and the cylinder head is designed to mount the turbos. So I have no idea how they would go about. You would need a different cylinder head. You would need a cylinder head that doesn't have the turbocharger provisions on it for it to actually function as a correct NA. Bill McKeiska, thank you for the super chat, Bill. Can you possibly do a video in the future on the relationship between small and big block Fords? Also, how do they have such a large following from a design perspective, they're on an island away from GM and Ford, GM and Mopar? Yeah, I mean, I've done big block Ford stuff. I can do more. I probably should do more. It's just not very common. It's not around to really to do much with. How do they have such a large following? Because there are Ford loyalists. There are people who love their Fords, like they're part of the Ford tribe. The same way I'm part of the Mopar tribe, right? And so they love those engines. The thing about Ford guys is that they have a blind loyalty, right? They have a very blind loyalty because things like the FE do have some substantial issues. I mean, I've talked about them, right? And then you take something like the Camry, which is the most misunderstood, most lied about engine in the entire history of internal combustion. The Camry is, and I wrote an article called what was it called now? The Diamond of Poop Mountain or something like that. I don't remember exactly. The Camry is a horrible engine. It's a terrible engine. But if you talk to Ford people, like, oh, that was outlawed by everybody all over the place because it crushed everything and it made 600 horsepower normally aspirated on a dyno, which it did. But it's not a good engine by any stretch of the imagination, which is why you don't see any copies of it out there today. But thank you for the super chat, man. Mitten Made Muscle. If you want to see how good Ford engines are, go to a grudge no ET event and see how many Fords are in the winner's circle. None. I mean, I agree. You're not going to find any Mopars there either, bro. Let's see. Walking Blue, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you too, Walking Blue. Let's see. Rocco Lee, how your Cocoa Puffs killed me. That was a long time ago, man. That was a really long time ago. Most of your parts, Ron Ward. What's happening, Ron? Thumper, good to see you in here. Mitten Made Muscle, Ford guys think everything else sucks, especially the Ford Cleveland guys. But the Ford Cleveland guys are actually onto something because the Ford Cleveland is an exceptionally good engine. Exceptionally good engine. I prefer Windsors. I like the little Windsor, right? And for no other reason that I just like it. Doesn't make any sense. Sometimes you just like something because you like it. There's just something about the little Windsor, not the 351s really, but the 289s, the 260s, 289s, 302s. I love those little engines. But the 351 Cleveland is, I mean, it's an exceptionally good engine in so many ways. Where the Cleveland guys have a right to brag a little bit. Thumper is saying, I absolutely love my 4-valve Clevelands. You know how rabid I am about Pontiac. Yeah, exactly. Mostly old parts. Ron is saying Clevelands have more cylinder head than an engine that size really deserves. Yes. Bobby Z, the camera got banned from NASCAR because everyone else was going to make overhead cam engines. It would have been an arms race. It did. The only reason the camera got banned by NASCAR is because of the Chrysler dual overhead cam motor. Okay, because they would try. And NASCAR had good reasoning for this. Okay, they had really good reasoning for this. So they let Chrysler in with the 426 Hemi in 1964. Okay, then there were the complaints that this is a special race engine. This isn't something that you could drive on the street. So NASCAR banned it for 65, and that's why racers like Petty went and Cotton Owens, they went drag racing in 65. So 66, Chrysler put the Hemi into regular production on the street, and so NASCAR allowed it back in. Now, in the meantime, Ford was developing or ready to release, had the single overhead cam motor ready to go. It was not allowed in NASCAR at the time that it was ready to go. Chrysler, in the meantime, said, well, if you're going to have one overhead cam, we're going to have two overhead cams. And so they started building what was known as the Doomsday Hemi. And I did a video on that. They never finished it. And I suspect that they never intended to finish it. Okay? But they built enough of it and let the information sneak out that they were building this and they were intending it for NASCAR. They let it out so that at that point, NASCAR put a stop to overhead cam engines. Period. Yeah, it didn't matter who was going to build them because they wanted to keep the engines in the cars the same ones that were available to people who were on the street. So you had to have a minimum, I think it was 500 of them built and distributed. So it wasn't because the camera was going to dominate everything. It was because NASCAR was like, okay, Ford's going to let Ford in here, then we're going to let Chrysler in here, and it's just too much, and we're going to stop it right there. And the reason the 426 Hemi was allowed to continue was because it was a regular production engine. You could go to any dealer and order a 426 Hemi powered Belvedere or Satellite or Coronet, and drive it out of the dealership. So for that reason, NASCAR allowed it, and that's the only reason. Scoop 351 Cleveland had two different heads available, 2V and 4V. I hate that. See, Ford has to do things their own way, right? 2V, 2 Venturi, 4 Venturi. Why can't you say barrel? Everybody on earth says barrel, but no, Ford has to be special and call it a V, right? A Venturi. But yes, 351 Cleveland had a 2-barrel head and a 4-barrel head. If I remember correctly, the 2-barrel head has a smaller combustion chamber, so you get higher compression with it. But the 4-barrel head has bigger ports. And there were a couple of different variations besides that, but I don't remember what they are. Jacob Bowman, do you think it's possible the next gen Hemi will have dual overhead cam? I doubt it. You see, you run into a lot of packaging problems. The 4-barrel has closed chamber. Okay. You run into packaging problems with overhead cam engine, single or dual. Like look at the size of it, like the Ford 4.6, right? No, there isn't enough of an advantage to an overhead cam. Look at the Ford Godzilla motor, right? You would think Ford, of all the people, oh, overhead cam this, overhead cam that. No, push rods here. Push rods are good enough. They'll get the job done. So no, I don't see. If Chrysler does revise the Hemi, and I don't think that they will, but if they do revise the Hemi, they're not going to make it overhead cam just for simple packaging. Those things don't fit. Okay, Thumper saying the two barrel heads, two V heads flow better than most aftermarket Windsor heads. Robert Bray is saying four V heads. V. There you go again. Come in open and closed. Okay. Klein Lawn Care and Snowing. Merry Christmas, Klein. Hashtag silver in my stocking. Are you a silver guy? Klein, I am too, man. Stack away. Stack away. They've given us a gift over the last couple of weeks, man. Was it 29? Last I checked, it was like 29.60 something. It's buying time. Rocco is saying that Stellantis is testing some kind of overhead cam V8 in the Charger platform. It's probably not a Hemi. It's probably not a Hemi. Scoop, my brother has a 1 pound solid silver dime. It's huge. Scoop, listen to me, right? Those novelty 1 pound of silver coins, I had one and got burned on it. All right. You should have him take that thing and have it tested. I actually got burned on one of those. It was a while ago. I learned my lesson, but it was several years ago. But yeah, it wasn't real silver. It was the outside of it was silver. Like not just silver plated, it was like silver. So like like it was like a quarter inch. That 1 pound was actually about 2 ounces of silver, and the rest of it was a filler metal. And I don't remember what the filler metal was, but I got burned on exactly that thing. Because I was into that for a while. I was buying all of these novelty silver, things, bars and coins and whatnot. So you haven't checked that. Carmudgeon, if it wasn't for Fords, my tools would rust. I used to say that years ago when I was turning wrenches on a regular for people. Fords, it was always Fords, always. You worked on like 3 Fords for every one of everything else. And back then it was Tauruses and Sables. Tauruses and Sables all the time, every day. I knew those cars like the back of my hand. I used to keep parts for them on the shelf. Always, all the time. It was back in like the late 80s, early 90s. Because if you guys don't understand, right? I've led many lives that overlapped each other, okay? So while I was doing magazines, while I was doing Nitro, I was also working on cars because I had family to support. I had big bills to pay. I lived in New York City, right? It was expensive, a very expensive life. So I worked 7 days a week, day and night, right? So I did many, many things, but I always maintained a bit of a repair business. So even when I was doing magazines, even when I was doing the Nitro cars, I was still turning wrenches on regular cars. Out of my house, I had a private business. I did a high volume. At one time I had 2 full-time mechanics working for me out of a 2-car garage in New York City. So this is what I'm saying. It's like been there, done there, got all these different T-shirts. But man, Fords, if it wasn't Fords paid my mortgage. Fords did everything, man. Fords. Travis Moore, I don't think anyone can live on minimum wage in New York City. Minimum wage, you're homeless. You're literally freaking homeless in New York City for minimum wage. RC Top Fueler, happy Krishna Kwanzaa. Yes, I can't pronounce it, but happy that to you and everybody else. Mr. Hangfire, why did Pontiac tone down and discontinue the 421 Super Duty for the 389? It was because of the ban on General Motors had a ban on any engine over 400 cubic inches in the intermediate cars. So the 421 Super Duty was great for the big cars, right? They were I don't even know what year they ran them to, but for the mid-sized cars like the GTO and all of the other GM mid-sized cars, there was a 400 cubic inch limit. And it was GM policy, and it wasn't relinquished until 1970. That's when you see the 455s pop into all these cars. So at that point, Pontiac was focusing on the GTO, and the GTO couldn't have anything bigger than 400 cubic inches. The 389 was the closest they had to it, and they expanded that to 400. So that's why that engine series, 389 and the 400, was the way to go. The only division that was able to get around that, so you had some 427 Chevelles built by Nicky Chevrolet, and there were a couple other dealerships too. They were doing conversions. And then you had the Hearst Olds, which had a 455, but that was done outside, right? So in other words, it didn't come off of a General Motors assembly line. It was done by Hearst, and so they were able to skate under the radar that way. But that's why you had so much interest in that 400, 390 to 400 cubic inch range from the General Motors cars. Fully Auto, thank you for the super chat. Chris Cadman, I don't like you anymore, Tony. Oh no, Chris. Oh no. Why? I am blue oval all the way. P.S. Clay Millican runs a Ford. Wait a minute, Clay Millican runs a Ford. Show me how Clay Millican runs a Ford. They pulled that shit with John Force, it was like 10 years ago or so. What they did was they put, so the engines in Force's cars were obviously 426 Hemis. What they did was they put a main bearing set in the Ford catalog that was intended to be used on a blown nitro motor. And so because of that, they declared it that it was a Boss engine, but it was a 426 Hemi. Clay Millican does not run any sort of actual Ford. It's some sort of Chrysler derivative. I'm not involved in temporary racing at all, so I don't know what it actually is. Swamp Rat, Merry Christmas, brother dear, and you too, Kathy. Kathy Bananas is back at the house. I'm here. Merry Christmas, James, and everybody there up in New York. Let's see. Cheap Roland, we love you, Tony. Keep fighting the good fight. Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Tony for Transportation Director. Only if I could phone it in. Only if I could phone it in. Firefly can't eat eggs directly. I don't eat eggs. I don't eat raw eggs. Not raw eggs. I don't eat eggs by themselves. They're okay as an ingredient, but I would rather let it be a chicken. You know what I'm saying? Give it a chance to be a chicken. Okay. Hippie Long, Tony, two separate questions. 64 Dart GT 4-speed. How the heck do I get seals on Z-bar nubby? You have to unbolt it. Second question, how to seal the factory 90-degree oil filter adapter? Okay, so your first question is you actually have to remove the Z-bar from the car. You got two bolts that hold it to the bell housing, and then you've got one bolt actually you got a nut that you see on the outside. If you're looking in a fender well of the car, behind the front wheel, you'll see the nut there. So that holds that pivot in place. So you have to take everything apart. It's a pain. It's very tight, but you actually have to remove it to do any of that and reassemble it. The oil filter adapter has a big round gasket attached to the block. So if you look closely at it, you'll see there's a big bolt, right, that holds the adapter to the block. That also has a gasket in it. So you've got to take that out. You got to remove that whole assembly, and then you'll see where that paper gasket is that goes between the adapter and the block, and then between the bolt and the adapter. Let's see. Rocco could eat eggs every day. Some people love them. Okay, fully auto. Can you give me any tips on sending ignition timing on a 440 with a passenger exit water pump housing? Yeah, I know. I have the same thing over here on my Belvedere. It has a front plate, and I can't see the balancer or timing plate on the passenger side. Okay, so you can, but you can only see the outer edge of it. Okay, so here's what I would do if you can, and this is what I'm going to do on this one over here because I have exactly the same problem. I have an early damper and timing cover that has the marks on the passenger side, but I have a later water pump housing that has the water pump neck that goes over that. So if you're looking at it, you got the timing line, and you can look in like at an angle, and you can see the edge of the marker of the timing tab. So what you could do if you have a welder, okay, is locate exact zero on that tab there, and just put a blob of weld right there. Just go right, and so this way you got a quick reference. You'll be able to see that line, or you'll be able to see the blob of weld as the damper is going. Or you could notch it, right? You could see it if you notch it. It's difficult, but you can. But I know exactly what you got going on there because I have exactly the same thing going here. And I was looking at it just the other day and saying, all right, so what do I got to do so I can set the timing on this thing using a light? So yeah, either put a little blob of weld at the edge of the timing tab in line with zero, or take a chisel, line it up with that zero, right, mark it, just give it a right, and then put a little V in there and use that as your reference. Let's see. Mr. Hangfire, barring the slant, greatest inline six-cylinder, are there conversions to make some cross flows that would change your opinions? I think it's pretty. I think it's pretty well established that the 2JZ is the ultimate to this point. I see Thumper's already at the greatest inline as a Pontiac overhead cam Pontiac. Yeah, the 2JZ is the engine to beat, and I mean, it's got everything going for it. As far as, and now my personal favorite myself has become the 4-liter as found in the Jeep, or the AMC inline six. And if you look at what we've done with Mission Improbable with a dead stock engine, okay, I am a believer in that engine now. I'm an absolute believer in that engine. But Thumper, right now, listen, right, it's still a Chevy. No matter how you look at it, the overhead cam Pontiac is still a Chevy with a Pontiac head. So is it really a Pontiac? Ron Ward is asking, aside from Saab and a couple of Western companies, why haven't more automotive applications utilized two-stroke engines? Mostly torque. Forget about emissions, control of emissions. But it's same. The two-stroke has the same problem that the rotary has. Torque. They don't make any torque. It's got to come up in the revs before it makes any power. And also keeping one quiet enough for like regular use. That the expansion pipes, chambered pipes, is really where you make power. There's a lot of different ways to make power, but an expansion chamber is crucial to good two-stroke performance and it's not practical in an automotive type of application. And then of course there's emissions, but that's a whole nother thing. Mexican spec. He just drove a 225 slant 6, Super 6, 9 hours to get home. A couple of days ago, we passed a lot of much newer cars. I was surprised. They run really good, bro. They run really good. They knew what they were doing with the Super 6. Let's see. RC Top Fueler. Have you ever had the opportunity to ever try radio-controlled drag racing? You would love an old-school nitro car, but the electronics are faster with battery technology. 0 to 90 in 4 seconds. Yeah, it's really cool stuff, but I've never been in an area or in a collective that had anything even remotely resembling that. Just when I was in New York City, Staten Island, there was nothing, no interest in anything like that. And here I'm in Nashville, and there's no, like, that thing just doesn't exist here. If it did, yeah, I might get into it, but it's just, I personally haven't come across it. Chris Cadman, Honda CBX 1100. Yes. Let's see. Franz Anton Mesmer, Merry Christmas, Franz. Josh Salata, love from Australia. Thank you, brother, man. Firefly RC cars and planes are expensive hobbies. But the real thing, I mean, there's no cheap vehicular fun. I mean, it's that simple. Which is, you go back to Mission Improbable. The whole point of that, the whole thing is cheap, fun, right? Cheap vehicular fun. But if you're going to go like blood and guts competition in any, you're going to spend money, man. You're going to spend money. Josh, you love the channel. Learned so much from all your series. Thank you, brother, man. I greatly appreciate that. Thank you. Trevor Duncan, he's taught me 90% of what I know about carbs and how to tune them. Merry Christmas. Well, thank you, man. It makes it. I do this. I do this for a friggin' living, but that's only part of it. I mean, like there's Steve Collison, used to be the editor of Superstock and Drag Illustrated. I worked for him, and he used to have this phrase about he used to call things psychic pay. Like when you do something, you write something, you do a story, or whatever it is, and people are like, "Yeah, I really got something out of that," and it's worth more than the money. You know what I mean? It's the psychic pay. So yeah, Trevor, thank you for the psychic pay. I greatly appreciate it. Trina Willie, do you ever watch Bikes and Beards? I love that channel. I wish I could produce something as good as Sean does. Sean has a crew. Sean is very good at what he does. Like very good at what he does. The guy's driven. He's creative. I cannot say enough good things about him and Bikes and Beards and SRK Cycles and everything that this guy does. I think he's fantastic. I'm a true Bikes and Beards fan. And he's only about 20 miles from here. They set up over in Spring Hill. He moved from Pennsylvania to Spring Hill, Tennessee, 25 miles from here last year. And the funny thing is, I watch a lot of his current videos. I see all of my local places. Like he did a couple of videos over at Bumpus Harley Davidson. So where I am right now in my shop, I've got to pass Bumpus Harley Davidson to get back to my house. So it's funny watching Bikes and Beards and seeing all my local scenery pop up in his videos. Midnight Mopar Garage. Tony, love the channel. Great info and tech. Looking for info on Bottle Rocket and the engine tweaks. Can't find the videos. What did you all do to that motor? I can't. Well, I pulled all of those videos down because of weird conflicts that were happening with an individual that was involved early on with that. So yeah, we took all those videos down. I've done many videos over the course of time that talks about different aspects of that engine. I just did one about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, where I talked about it too, but I don't remember what details I got into. But we'll do more. We'll do more on that. Let's see. Sleeper Dude. Yes. Sleeper Dude is here too. I'm a big fan of his channel too. And his family. He's got a beautiful family. He's got a beautiful thing going on. Ron is asking, Tony, does anyone near Nashville have a spin charm machine? Have you ever put an engine on one? I have not, and I don't know if there are. Yeah. Let's see. Oscar Gonzalez, Tony, have you ever used a stop leak product called AT205? I have not. If so, have you used on transmissions? I've never heard of it. I've never heard of it. Wait, I may have heard of it. I may have heard of it because people in the comments brought it up, but I've never heard of it like conversationally out in the world. So no, I'm not familiar with it at all. Merry Christmas, Andrew. Mexican Spec, I wish Sleeper Dude would have split up their last vacation video over 3 hours. Is a lot to commit to. So there's a game going on right now on YouTube. I don't know if you guys realize it or not. Okay, you probably don't, but you'll notice that a lot of the automotive channels are stretching their content way out. What used to be a 45-minute video, what used to be a half-hour video, became an hour video, and now hour to 2 hours to 3 hours. And this is a game that these guys are playing. They're actually trying to choke each other out because there's only so many eyes in this world that we're in, right? In the hot rod car world, right? There's only so many eyes with only so many hours to watch. And what these guys are doing, right? I won't mention their names, but they're all the big names in this realm. Is they're all putting out super stretched, super long content in the goal of choking out the other guys because the competition has become very tight lately. So yeah, that's what you're seeing. That's why you're seeing all of these 2 and 3 hour long videos. Just because of that, they're trying to choke each other out. None of them will admit it. None of them are going to admit it, but that's what's going on. Unity Motorsports, Andy, how are you, my brother? Merry Christmas, Andy. Good to see you here, my brother. I wanted to talk to you about. I want to take Bottle Rocket to War in the Woods this year. We need to get together and talk. Thumper is saying, who's going to sit for 3 hours and watch a YouTube video? It's better to have naked dancing girls. Well, here's the thing. They're not expecting you to watch all 3 hours. They're expecting you to hang in there for, a time, a half hour, and because you got to fast forward to a lot of stuff. And they know this. But again, you have all of these personalities that are suddenly reliant on YouTube for their living. They're not getting a check from Mother Corporation anymore. And so it's a one-upmanship thing. It's like who can steal the most eyes for the most hours. That's what's going on, and I think it's going to get even worse, to tell you the truth. I'm not changing my game at all. I do something completely different than those guys do. Zero's in the house. What's happening, brother man? Zero, did you put up a link to Unity Motorsports Garage? Because you guys should all go over and sub to Unity Motorsports Garage. Mexican Spec, you unsubbed from Vice Grip. Oh my God. Why would anybody ever unsub from Vice Grip? Thumper is saying attention span of the average video is not that long. A 30-minute video is a huge commitment. That's fine, except that I'm telling you what's going on here. You're trying to choke each other out. Well, not just choke each other out, not just each other. They're trying to choke out channels like ours. And I'm not saying, oh, I'm a victim or anything. No, don't take that the wrong way. But they also want to eliminate as much competition as possible. So if you're committed to watching, an hour's worth of a 3-hour video from this one and 45 minutes of a 2-hour video from the other guy, well, then you're probably not going to have the time that evening to click on, let's say, my video. And it has shown up. I'm watching the analytics, and I can see exactly what's going on. I follow this. It's like well, tuning a YouTube channel is just like tuning a car. Right? You have to pay attention to all these different parameters, and so I see it. You know what I mean? It's fun. It's fun. It's going to shake out in some pretty interesting ways. Max Deep, what's happening, Max? Mexican Spec is saying it's because, you're talking about Derek. It's because his videos are getting longer and longer, Tony. I'm not entertained with his act anymore. He's had that act going for a really long time. I don't know how he keeps it up. I honestly don't. But he does, and he has a core following that's really, really freaking loyal. But like I said, it's a YouTube war right now. It's a YouTube war, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. It's going to shake out in some crazy ways. Robert Rio saying, I'll watch long videos if they're interesting. Yes, I agree. I will too. Tom Fry, I'll watch any 30 minutes from you, then 3 hours of someone. I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. But we do different things. It's like we're not actually in competition. Like we're in competition for watch hours, but we're not in competition for what we do. Like I do something that's completely different than something like what Derek does. I do something that's completely different than like what Freiberger does. We're not doing the same things. So that's not the kind of competition that it is. It's just a competition for hours in general, right? For view time in general. Mocio, Ryan is saying War in the Woods. Is that? Yes, the Tiny Outlaw track. It's in Indiana. That has a grass down the middle of the track. Yes. End of time. Tony, your channel is different because you actually learn something. But that's the point of my channel, right? The point of my channel is more. So like, okay, you have like the revival channels. There's a lot of revival channels, and they're really, really popular because people like to live vicariously. Everybody has the dream of of one day I'm going to go out and I'm going to get a car and I'm going to drive it all the way home. Yay, right? People have this dream, and it's a good dream to have. And they watch these videos and they live vicariously through the guys who do these things. And that's fantastic. I do a different kind of video. My videos are more about facts. They're more about technique, facts, history, that sort of stuff. I'm not trying to take anybody on an adventure. You see what I'm saying? There's a difference. There's a big difference. Bill McKeiska, thank you for the super chat. Chances of a Bottle Rocket versus Casper rematch. I'm going to tell you right now, Casper has gone to a point that I can't touch Casper. It's just not going to happen. Casper's been refined now, and the bugs have been worked out of it. And yeah, it just ain't going to happen. And back at that period of time that we raced, Casper was still having on and off teething pains kind of things, and I had that outside chance, and it happened to work out. But now this is like almost 2 years later, it's a year and a half later, and Andy and Casper have refined themselves, and I know not to write a check that my car can't cash. So yeah, I don't think there'll be a rematch on that. But I would like to team up with Andy and take Bottle Rocket to War in the Woods this year. I can prep an engine for it better than the one that's in there right now. Uh-oh. Hang on, guys. I hope I didn't lose you, right? We still on? Are we still on? Yes. Okay, we're still on. So I had a pop up about an update or whatever the hell it is. So I would like to team up with him and go there and see what we can do. He can drive. He's definitely more practiced than I am, and I'll do everything else. But we need to work that out. We need to work that out. Let's see. Firefly, what was for Christmas dinner? Chinese, man. We had Chinese. We took the holiday off this year. We took it off this year. It's always chaos, always a mess, always very expensive. And this year we took it off. Andy's saying he thinks Bottle Rocket will do well at War in the Woods. I think it'll go a round or two. I mean, it's not. I'm not delusional enough to think that it's going to go rounds. Okay, but I think we can go a round or two. I think it's a possibility. Let's see what happens. I think just being a participant, I think just going there and participating is going to be its own reward. Mostly old parts. Yeah, the only class that would fit in is True Street. Dumper is saying it depends on if you pull a heavy hitter like Billy at Street. Yeah, they're running a different thing. They're running different classes. We're talking about hitting True Street with that. Let's see. Mr. Hangfire, how is Freiberger knifing people? He's become a slasher? This is news to me. Let's see. Rocker Race Sausage. He has a 71 satellite. Rocco, I called out Dulcich on his BS intake article he wrote 20 years ago. He lost his mind and retreated from the internet. Yeah. All right. He's interesting. Okay, I'm not going to say anything bad about the guy. Dulcich is interesting. He's interesting. No, but as far as like the people from the Street Race Channel, I have nothing. I have nothing for those guys. Like there's just nothing. We build very cheap, very simple, very basic cars here. We run them very infrequently because it doesn't get a lot of views, so there's no real incentive to go out there and spend the money and spend the time and do all. It's just no incentive there, and I have nothing for those guys to go race them or anything like that. They're in a league of their own. All I'm saying is that at a no prep event like that, there is a chance in the early rounds when the track is really shitty, okay, and these guys have got their traction control like just going nuts, pulling power out and everything else. A car like Bottle Rocket has a chance to go a round or two. Once the surface is all worked in, it's heat in the track and it's all, you know what I mean? Once the track matures towards the later rounds, there's no way. There's no way. But perhaps we got a chance early on we could get lucky for a round or two. And that's why I'd like to try it. I have no delusions of thinking that we're going to go compete head to head with those guys. Wow. We're at an hour and 45 minutes already. Oh my God. That went really fast. Let's see. You see 105 minutes. I guess that would be, well, 1 hour and 45 minutes. Dean Stevenson, without ass hats, how can they be fun on the dance floor? They can't be. You need the ass hat. Essential. Essential. I know you guys are talking about Mexican cars. Rocco, props for calling Tavares a commie ass clown. Can you think of a better description for him? Elmo, is Trump going to squash the electric vehicle mandates? I think immediately, if not sooner. Immediately, if not sooner. Well, I want to say, Tony, at War in the Woods, with all due respect, and in my best Roy Scheider voice, you're going to need a bigger bottle. We'll see. We'll see. That's the only thing I can say is we'll see. Let's see. Mexican spec, Tony, the rear drums on a Mexican 63 Savoy come off without taking off the nut. Why weren't the U.S. cars made like that? Your rear end was converted at some point. All of the 63s had the Woodruff key. All of them. Right? Doesn't matter what part of the world they were in. They all had the Woodruff key. Somebody converted yours at some point. Either they changed out the whole rear axle or they changed out the axles themselves. Chris Kavanaugh, my lab terrier is going on 18 years old. She has me frightened. She's going to outlive me and take the big bag of dog. You take the big bag of dog food in the hallway. That's one of the things when you get older, like me now, it's like, I know some of my dogs are going to outlive me, and that's one of the things you worry about. Porsche is supposed to be working on an alternative fuel. Jimmy Hat, is welding a diff dangerous for posi? No. People have been welding differentials for as long as they've needed two tires to grab. No, it's not dangerous at all. Of course, that's with the caveat saying you weld it well, because if you happen to like shatter spider gears, well, that could cause a rear end to lock up. So yeah, that could be a problem. But no, just if they're welded well, yeah, no, they're fine. It's fine. Um, Dean Stevenson says if they get a free chicken every time the UAPs visit, it won't have to be taxed. Thank you, Dean. Thank you, Dean. Thank you for being you, brother. I mean, you always throw an entertaining like aspect or a twist or curveball or something into the chat. Dean, I want you to know that I genuinely do appreciate you. And thank you for being part of our. You've been around for years, man. You've been around since we started. Thank you, Dean. Thank you. Um, 72 Z28, well, welded diff will make you squirrely on wet corners. Well, yeah, okay. It's not the kind of thing you want to drive on the street every day. If you've got a welded diff, your biggest problem, aside from the fact that on wet surfaces, sharp turns, slick surfaces, yeah, it's very bad. It will murder your fuel mileage, okay? Because every time you're making a turn, you're fighting. Those two wheels are locked together. And the purpose of the differential is to allow one wheel to spin faster than the other. So when you lock them together, now when you go around a turn, you're always going to be dragging one tire, okay? And that murders, like literally, you'll cut your fuel mileage in half, right? And you would be surprised. You say, well, I don't make a lot of turns, right? No, just minor variations on the road that you don't even realize. You know what I mean? You're scrubbing off power with that locked diff. And then axle fatigue, because with the locked diff, because there's always a tug, always forces working back and forth on the axles. Axle fatigue is like at that spline joint, right? Right where the spline goes, like to transfers to the regular shaft. That area is always getting twisted and worked back and forth. So when eventually they snap. So yeah, there's a lot of drawbacks to a welded diff on something that's driven on the street. But if it's like a race car type of thing, a drift car type of thing, a Saturday night special only comes out every once in a while, you're going to race somebody and put it back home, they're fine. But no, I would not recommend a welded diff in daily use. BS Customs, I worked on a proving ground where they were testing differentials. The amount of flex of axles themselves is kind of mind-boggling. Yes, I know. Thumper is off on. Thumper's into alternative fuels, man. He loves the alternative fuel thing. Elbow is saying, "Thumps, stop the tech talk. It's making my brain hurt." And Dean Stevens saying, "Also, if you tickle me, I wave a white flag early." I am going to keep that in mind. It's now planted in my head, brother. 72Z28, I like the sound a heavy axle makes when it brakes on the maximum. Oh, yeah. Chris Cabin, you got to work tomorrow. Merry Christmas to you and yours, brother. Thank you for coming. Rocco, do we have to start a new year? Can't we relive the old one? No. Let's get rid of it. Yeah, let's put 2024 behind us. All right. Yeah. Weird year. Let's although I'm certain 2025 is going to be it's going to square root the weirdness of 2024. But I'm looking forward to it because it can't get weird enough for me. It's that simple, okay? It just can't get weird enough. So let's eyes closed, head down, and just run into the future. Tom Fry, Tony, I saw old U.S. Nationals when a fuel car blew a head off of it. I've been party to that many times, bro. I've been party to the cylinder head leaving the block on numerous occasions. Shangri-La 73 Eldorado, Tony, more driving videos, please. And can you do some videos with Tennessee scenery? Yeah. Let me think about that, Shangri-La, because I mean, I happen to have a genuine love for the where I am, Middle Tennessee. I'm always amazed at how beautiful it is and how diverse it is, and how it just there's there are no words to describe how much I love this area. And yeah, I would like to do things to kind of share what I have here, but it doesn't come across on video. It doesn't really transfer, if that makes any sense. But yeah. Ron Wood, Heartland Park, Topeka, 1989. Supercharger blew off a top alcohol car and flew over the grandstands and into the pits. So they had us putting straps on the car in like 87, and then like for 90 had to have the blower bag and all of that shit. It was because of that. BS Customs, Hickok 45 is also in Middle Tennessee. I know he is. Have you ever bumped into each other? No, we haven't. We have, so in my immediate area, I mean, like literally, like right here, okay, within a 25-mile radius, you've got Hickok 45, Cody, Whistling Diesel, Sean, Bikes and Beards, Derek, Bicycle Garage, who else? Oh, I know I'm leaving somebody out. But this immediate area where I am right now, south of Nashville, is like a mecca for YouTubers. Barracuda, yes. Kiwis over in Franklin, yes. Old Dirty Bastard Garage. Tony, you think silver is going to break over $50 finally again in 2025? Old Dirty Bastard, stop paying attention to the numbers, okay? Don't pay attention to the numbers. Other than just look at them as buying opportunities, but don't pay attention to numbers, because things are being set up right now and it really is, it's the fact, okay? The silver price, the spot price, trading price is all based on a derivative market, and has no bearing on the actual demand, global demand, and supply for the metal. So at this point, right, stop paying attention to the charts other than looking at dips as buying opportunities. Like right now, you got a buying opportunity, because when it happens, right, when I say it, very vague, but something's going to happen in the credit markets. When it happens, you're not going to be counting silver in dollars. You're going to be counting silver in ounces, okay? It's not going to be how many dollars is this ounce of silver. It's how many ounces of silver do I need to buy this or buy that. I know that sounds really vague. I know it sounds really like almost cryptic, okay? But don't worry about if it hits $50. Don't worry if it hits $100, $600. Although there's a pretty pretty well-backed prediction for $600 silver before it goes to like where it's just counted in ounces. You can look up Cliff High's WebBot predictions, and he called the drone thing. He's called a lot of things with the WebBot. So he has called for $600 silver, but I wouldn't really pay attention to that. Just look at the dips. As soon as you see a dip and you can invest more, buy more. But you're going to see in a not too distant future, and I'm going to say within 6 months, a year, where you're going to be counting silver in ounces and not worrying about what the dollar number attached to it is. Does that make any sense? Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up really soon here because we're over 2 hours. N1 Garin for the win. What oiling mod should be done to a 426 Street Hemi to help prevent starving the main bearings and tossing rods? It's all in the oil pan design. Okay, it's all in the oil pan design. That center sump, even with the baffling and all of that, on hard acceleration causes enough oil to head to the back of the engine that it will temporarily starve the sump. Number six rod bearing is the one that always goes. That's the one you have the problem with. And the reason for that is because number 6 is sharing oil with the rockers. So one of the first things you do is you restrict the oil to the rockers, not by much, but a little bit of restriction to the oil. But what happens is anytime there's any type of starvation or cavitation at the sump, number 6 rod gets starved because 6 is sharing oiling with the connecting rods. So with the connecting rods, with the rocker arms. So what you need a deep sump, a well baffled deep sump pan, and a restriction to the oiling on the top end, and you should be good. Okay, you're a heavy stacker yourself. Okay, well, there you go. You know the deal. Elmo, are sealed power pistons okay for a mild street build? Mild street build? Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see. Yes, Merry Christmas to you too, Eric. So, all right, guys, we're over the 2 hour mark. You want to throw something at real quick? Let's do it because I'm just about to talk that now. Actually, I picked up. Oh wait, I have a second wind because I picked up a water. Wait, hang on. Let me drink a little water. Oh yes. All right, I'm good for a few more minutes. Okay. I do miss having Dr. Art here. Rocco, what's coming up this week? Charger video. I am going to do a charger. I'm going to rank the chargers, all of them, right? Just my personal perspective is and observations on the different generation of charger. I know a lot of people are, they just like chargers in general, so we're going to do that. And then I've got an interesting camshaft tech video coming up. Danny boy, drive your charger, please. I will. It's been sitting there. I haven't moved it since September. Tom Fry, Tony, please do more of the nitro, please. I have been going since I was 10. Now I'm 58. I don't want to overdo it. I don't want to overdo it, but yeah, we'll get some more in there. Mexican Spec 20, when are you going to fix the flipper on headlights in your Charger? I would watch that video twice. Oh man, there is so much wrong with. I honestly, the dash harness is hammered. The motors themselves are both bad. You know what? Honestly, I probably won't, because to me it's no big deal. It's no big deal. Oh, it's getting dark. Flip the headlights up. I mean, oh, the sun is up. Flip the headlights down. It's, to me, it's not that big of a deal. You know, it's not a restoration. It's not something I'm going to go crazy with. So, yeah, I probably won't bother with it. Let the next owner, let the next guy mess with that if he wants to. Rocky, you mentioned the Woods toy. Yes, I actually rolled it into position this afternoon, this morning. So yeah, we'll have something on it. So my friend Deshaun, he's next door. He detailed a couple of vehicles for me. He's wanting to play with the Woods toy too. So we'll probably won't be making video on it, but I have a friend who wants to get involved and have some fun with that thing. So. KJ Kyle, Scribbles is running okay. She's just been sitting there for a while. Eric Swenson, I don't know what's worse, Tony, the EV Charger or the 81 Charger. I had an 81 Charger. I loved it. I saw nothing wrong with that car. That's part of ranking the Chargers, man. That's part of ranking the Chargers. I'm gonna do a video on that. Rocker, any XJ content is good content, bro. I agree, but the numbers don't. So I have to go by the numbers. I got to go by what, you know what I mean. I got to go by the numbers. And XJ content does not bring in good numbers. All 9,000 cannot do that. Oh, geez, Dean, I didn't know, man. I didn't know. BS Customs, they're not G people. They don't understand. I don't know how anybody can possibly not be an XJ fan. I get not liking, like CJs and stuff like that. I get that, right? But the XJ is just the most perfect vehicle ever built. Ever built. All right. You love the XJ and the ZJ Palmer. Yeah, I'm not crazy about the ZJ. It's just, I don't know. I don't know. It's just, there's a purity to the XJ, a simplicity to the XJ that I can't. I can't think of a better all-around vehicle. Shangri-La loves the XYZ. All right, guys. I am going to pull the plug on this. So our mods, Mexican Spec and Zero, thank you so much. Fubar, I don't know if Fubar was around at all, but at any rate, guys, thank you so much. Everybody contributed with Super Chat. Thank you so much. Greatly appreciated. Never expected, but always appreciated. And everybody who, just your presence and your conversation, thank you. And your Christmas, I hope everybody had an awesome Christmas. Everybody who's celebrating Hanukkah, I hope you guys have an awesome Hanukkah. And whatever other holidays, I don't even remember which ones they are. Whatever, I don't care what you celebrate. I do not care what you celebrate. I hope you have an awesome one. And that this year is going to be great for all of us. So I think that's it, right? I'm gonna pull a plug, and yeah, that's it. Next week we'll be back here. We'll be back Sunday night for our usual show, and next Wednesday night Dr. Art will be back with us here too, and hopefully maybe Buff Del Campo pops up. I used to like having Buff around. He was a fun guy. So that's it, guys. I'm gonna pull the plug now, And good night, all.